Rhubarb, one of my favorite plants in the spring. First to pop up, and it comes back like a weed. I get new plants pretty much every year that just pop up along, you'll see alongside the house here. They take very minimal care. And today we're going to make a rhubarb ginger wine, kind of loosely based off of the rhubarb ginger jam that I made last year that I really liked, and also taking in some recipes from a ginger wine off of Jack Keller's site, and a rhubarb wine recipe. And then I'm tweaking it a little bit and throwing a little bit of this and a little bit of that in. You'll see the recipe, I'll post it, of what I used. But yeah, and the rest of the garden, I got tomatoes already in. My hops plant, if you've watched the other videos, this year I'm doing a little bit of a little more decorative, trying to get it to be a little bit more not taking up the entire back of the deck, so I can actually see my backyard, because the cascade in the center there that goes up the pole and off to each side is just a monster. It is a monster of a hops plant. And that's a holler tower. That's a little bit more tender. Doesn't grow nearly as vigorous as the cascade. Grapes are popping up, both here and in the way back, in the backyard, along the back fence line. Like I mentioned about my pear trees this year, because of the hard winter, my Asian pear tree, which is the pear tree on the right, got very few blooms, probably just enough blooms to pollinate the Bartlett pear. So I will have pears this year, but not very many Asian pears, and the ones that are going to be way up at the top. Elderberry bushes, both of them, York and Adams, are both doing really well. They're another plant that doesn't need a whole lot of care, just water. And my apple tree in the corner you really can't see, but that's doing well also. So on with the recipe. All right, it's Memorial Day, and I'm making I've skipped the basics of, you've all seen me chopping rhubarb. Seems to be I do it every year. And instead of doing a strawberry rhubarb, although I may do a strawberry rhubarb, I'm actually doing a rhubarb ginger wine. And this is based off of couple of different combining a couple of different recipes. First of all, I really like the rhubarb ginger jam that I made a little over a year ago, and I videotaped it. You can look at it, and I'll give you a link on here. But you can see the ginger. Anyway, I've all chopped it up. Used the Cuisinart, which is really nice, because who the heck wants to chop up all that ginger? Chop the rhubarb up fine. I'll give you the ingredients list here. And as you can see, and got everything in here, including, I went a little bit, I added a little bit of brown sugar instead of my initial recipe only called for white sugar. And so we're going ahead and going with that. And we'll see how this goes during the first week. Pretty optimistic. The smell of the ginger is amazing. And that should be it. 2 days into the primary. We're getting good fermentation, as you can hear. The smell is pretty good, pretty amazing actually. Got to make sure I got to retie that. Don't want all the fruit coming out of there. It's been 7 days, and as you can see, I've got it transferred once again to the secondary. I think you can see things moving along here quite well. The color is, as I said before, going to be a yellow. Thought for one day it was going to be a little pinkish hue, but that washed out pretty quick. So we're going to have a nice little clearish yellow rhubarb ginger wine. It still smells really good. but it's still got a little bit left to ferment out. So 7 days in, we're in the secondary, and eventually, probably within the next week, it'll clear. It should clear rather quickly since there's not a whole lot to rhubarb, or ginger for that matter. Alright. Okay, it's been almost 2 weeks, and as you can see, the rhubarb ginger is starting to clarify. The fermenting is done. The airlocks, for the most part, stopped. Maybe one bloop every couple minutes, but that's just from the CO2 settling out, I believe. And I did add my metabisulfite, so that's helping things settle out too also, I would imagine. But looks like it's going to be a nice, like I said, about a yellow color. It's taken a long time. Well, not a long time actually. It's going pretty quickly, but you can see here that the yeast are dying out and clearing out. Should be maybe another week, if that, and it'll be crystal clear. I'm going to take a wild guess. Okay, it's probably been about 3 weeks since we started the fermentation, and as you can see, it's crystal clear. Today we're going to sample it just a little bit and see what kind of sweetness we're going to bring it up to. But that's the rhubarb ginger as it stands right now. Pretty darn clear. Okay, finished transferring or racking the wine on, and also adding the stabilizer, which is the potassium sorbate, which will kill off any remaining live yeast. I should correct that. It doesn't kill off live yeast. What it does is prevent yeast from multiplying. No more whoopee going on. So the ones that are still alive will die out. It's just a matter of time. So give it a couple of weeks and then I can sweeten up. I did taste the wine, and what I did was figured out, just based on my own experience, and added 2 cups of sugar in a mixing bowl along with enough wine, enough of the rhubarb ginger, and got it near boiling so that the sugar broke down, and I bottled it, which I'll put it in the refrigerator, and that'll be ready to add back to the wine in a couple of weeks as a makeshift F-pack, as some home winemakers like to call it, basically a sweetening pack, because right now it's very dry, the aroma is very good, a lot of ginger, which is what I want. So you're not going to get a lot of rhubarb out of it. The rhubarb is more the acid. You can pick up the acidity of the rhubarb flavor, and the tartness. So it'll be there, but it'll mainly I think we'll call it ginger rhubarb instead of rhubarb ginger. That's what I'm thinking, because that'll be the prevalent aroma. So there you have all the chitosan and the quisisol, the fining agents, left in the jug. And now we wait, which is what winemakers do. Hey, it's Steve, and I've made a command decision. Before we put this away and let it sit for a couple weeks and then sweeten it up, I pretty much know how much sweetener, like I said, with the basic syrup that I made in the bottle with the 2 cups of sugar should be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this now as we're at right now. Because, I mean, it's just another bottling video. So the next video I'll have will be a separate standalone video when we do the taste, the final tasting of it. So this is the rhubarb ginger. Pretty much exactly what I wanted, and you can see the roses behind it. Clear as all get out. And won't know for another 30 days or so what it tastes like. Well, I know it's going to be good, but we'll do a separate tasting video. But everything moved pretty smoothly from the beginning to the end. And that's about all we got until the tasting. Cheers.